Hello and welcome to Think Watercolour. Today's demonstration is all about using contrast to add depth to your watercolours. This is an imagined scene of a man returning home with his dog after a walk on a bright and sunny day. I've loosely sketched a layout with a track leading to a cottage with a large overhanging tree branch above, casting some shadows in the track. So here's how I painted the scene. I started by dampening the sky area mainly with some clean water using a mop brush, and then with some cerulean blue with a touch of cobalt blue started to wash in the sky, and then added some Naples yellow at the bottom of the page and covered the track as well with the Naples yellow. Let it all blend together, wet on the page. This is all going to dry much lighter, and I'm just going to let it dry before I continue. Okay, I've let that dry fully, and I've mixed up some cobalt blue with some sap green to create this bluey green for the distant trees further away from us. This will dry lighter again, just to indicate some trees in the distance really. Just carefully painting around the cottage and the overhanging branch of the tree, just to keep it nice and clear, so that when I paint it I don't have any blue behind it. Just softening the edges with some clean water, and I'm going to let this dry as well. One thing I'd say is if you are doing a painting like this, take your time and let each wash dry before you continue, if you don't want it all to blend together. And in this case I want it to stay unblended, so I'm just going to let it dry. Okay, for the next wash I've mixed up some sap green for the trees that are around the cottage and just to the side of the cottage, and just using a detail brush. These are ideal for doing loose patchy areas of leaves, trees, etc. And as I say, starting with some sap green and just adding a little bit of jadeite green to the mix just to darken it slightly, just while it's still wet, dropping it all in. This is Saunders Waterford 300 gram rough paper, by the way. And while it's still wet, I can drop in some darker colours to suggest some shadows and some variety of leaf colour. Just softening edges with some clean water. I want this left-hand side to be very clear and light and bright as a contrast for the tree when I paint it. For the field that's on the right of the painting, I've mixed up some sap green with some lemon yellow just to make it stand out a little bit from the trees in the background, and just dropped in a bit of extra colour while it's still wet. And using the same colour for the foliage on the left side of the track. Not being too careful about painting around the figure because he's going to be darker anyway, but just being a little bit careful. Dropping in a few darker tones as I go along while it's all wet. Letting it all blend wet in wet. Just added a little bit of jadeite green to darken it. And just while it's still wet, just adding a few streaks of colour to suggest the shape of that field on the right. And I've let that dry, and I'm now working on the cottage, and this is a mixture of ultramarine and a touch of burnt sienna to create this grey for the roof tiles. And using a flat brush and just dragging down, just creating some texture using the texture of the rough paper. Keep it very loose, leaving some areas very light to suggest reflected sunlight. These roofs on these old cottages are always patchy in colour anyway, so it's if you paint it as a flat colour, it looks a bit false and laboured. So you'll see once it's finished that it should look fine. Just with that dormer window, same with the roof there. Just added a little bit of Van Dyke brown to paint the top of the wall facing us on the cottage, and then softening it with some clean water and a touch of burnt sienna. Same with the side wall, a bit darker. That's a little bit more in shade in my imagination. So just dropping in some Van Dyke and some burnt sienna, and then just with some clean water, just softening it down. A few patches into the bushes, so that the wall shows through a little bit. And just suggesting a little bit of shadow at the bottom, and then lifting out. Gone a bit too dark. I want to keep the whiteness of the wall if I can. The trick with doing things like this is to keep it fairly vague. Don't try and paint every detail. Keep it loose, and it'll all come together at the end. For the overhanging tree branches, I've mixed up some permanent rose with a touch of burnt sienna, and I've mixed up a puddle of burnt sienna and some Van Dyke brown. And I'm just letting them blend together on the page, and just a few darker patches and then a few lighter patches. I want to suggest some dappled sunlight. So these will dry much lighter, apart from the darkest darks, which will obviously stay fairly dark. Just add a touch of ultramarine to the mix there, just to darken the tree trunk where it's nearer to the front of the painting. Just adding a few darker patches here and there, just to create the shape of this branch, really. Not being too worried about the branches disappearing to the top, because they're going to be covered in leaves shortly. And just adding a little bit of shadow to the underside of that branch, and a few patches where it's twisted at the end there. And this will create some dappled sunlight, hopefully, once I start adding some leaves. Just using a rigger to indicate some branches in the trees behind the cottage through the tree trunks, breaking them up so that they're partially covered by the foliage, keeping it fairly vague and loose. The eye will do the rest. Same for the trees in front of the cottage. For the foliage on the main tree, I've used some pretty strong mix of some jadeite green and a touch of ultramarine, just for the darker patches, and then dropping in some Van Dyke brown and some burnt sienna, letting it all mix and blend on the page. I want to create some really dark patches, and as I come across to the right of the painting, I'm going to use some lighter colours to suggest that the leaves are out in more into the sunlight. Again, dropping in a few various shades of green. This is sap green. Adding a touch of brown and a touch of burnt sienna, just to vary the colours. And while it's still wet, I can add some more darks. Just creating a little bit of contrast. That's the whole point of this painting, is to suggest contrast. This overhanging tree trunk and the dark leaves are there to add contrast to that bright area, the other side of the figure. And once I've painted the figure, you'll see he will stand out because he's against a much lighter background. So this idea of dark against light, light against dark, warm against cool, helps to create harmony in your painting. And while the leaves still wet, I'm just dropping in some more branches, letting it blend. It doesn't matter if it blends; it will trick the eye into thinking that there are more branches there. As usual, the trick is knowing when to stop once you're painting leaves. It's very easy to go over the top. But I just want this left-hand sand corner to be really dark against that lighter background. I'm just going to use a flat brush to indicate the door and a couple of windows on the front of that cottage. Keeping it fairly vague, not too much detail. The trick is to just suggest what's there rather than try, again, as I said earlier, rather than trying to paint too much detail. Just keep it nice and loose. Just a hint of what's there. It's a bright sunny day, so just suggest some shadows. Same with the chimney pots. I can always add some more dark if it dries a bit too light. Just putting a drain pipe in there just adds a little bit more detail, but without going over the top. For the shadows cast by the branch of the tree and the leaves, I've mixed up some imperial purple with a touch of burnt sienna to create this purplish grey, and just painting it in very loosely, just dappled shadows, making the shadow a little bit stronger nearer to us where the man is standing. Just strengthening the shadows under the bushes along the side of the track. Just adding a few patches on the roof as well. And for the figure, I've just darkened that shadow mix with some neutral tint. I want the figure to be silhouetted against the bright background, but I'll add some colour to the coat. His coat. This is warm red, and just dropping it in wet to mix in with the shadow colour. And when you're painting figures, just paint one leg slightly longer than the other. It suggests that he's walking. Same with the dog, just very loosely painted. Body and forelegs and a couple of ears sticking up, and just blending it into the shadow. Just adding a little bit more colour to that side of the coat. The right hand side of the coat I want to show more colour, and the left hand side to be more in the shade. Just adds a little bit of three-dimensionality to the figure. But as you can see, he's nicely silhouetted against that bright background now. Just darkening some of the detail on the cottage windows and doorway, just to strengthen it a little bit, but not adding any detail. I'm just using Van Dyke Brown for the fence posts and the horizontal bars on the fence, and painting it fairly loosely and using a little bit of dry brush technique, letting the paint run out on the brush as I drag it off the page. Not forgetting to add some shadows cast by the fence posts. Just adding a few of the thinner branches with a rigger, just to tie it together with the leaves that are painted. Just adds a little bit more to the tree, makes it a little bit more realistic. Two spindly branches. And I think I'm done. I do hope you found this demonstration useful. It's all about creating contrast. That bright area on the left of the page really makes the figure and the tree branch stand out and adds depth to the painting. The cottage is painted with lighter values, so it looks further away, and the line of the fence brings the eye toward you. So overall, I think it's not too bad an effort for a completely imaginary scene. Do give this sort of thing a try. Just sketch a few ideas and see how they look and see if you can paint them. It's a great way to learn how your colours mix together. Thanks again for watching. I do hope you found it useful. If you did, do give it a like. It really helps with YouTube. If you're not a subscriber, do subscribe and hit the notification bell for future videos. I do try to post at least once every week to 10 days, but sometimes don't manage it. But stick with me, I'll keep going. Thanks once more for watching.